President Muhammadu Buhari has finally signed into law the mental health bill harmonized by both houses of assembly in 2021. The signing, which seems to be a parting gift to Nigerians from the president, is also the first post-independence Mental Health Act, which will replace the Lunacy Act of 1958. The mental health bill has been a major talking point for mental health professionals for a long time. Medical experts have raised the alarm that many Nigerians are facing mental health challenges in the country, and most of them are neglected.
Experts say less than 10% of those who need treatment actually access care, with over 90% not doing so. The Association of Psychiatrists in Nigeria says a lack of access to mental health care is also compounded by the poor ratio of mental health practitioners to patients, which is described as very low. The World Health Organization recommends one psychiatrist to 1,000 citizens, while Nigeria is said to have one psychiatrist to close to 1 million citizens.
Those data are quite troubling. But let's now speak with a mental health advocate, Adedotun Esan, a mental health advocate and the founder of Mental Health with DT Foundation. Well, she's also one of those health professionals that have been advocating for the passage of the mental health bill. Thank you so much, Adedotun, for being here. I'm sure you're excited with this, signing, which a lot of Nigerians are saying it's a parting gift, more or less, from President Muhammadu Buhari. But you know what? 6 out of every 10 Nigerians, according to data, have one mental issue or another. Yes, not 6 of them are roaming the streets, but 1 or 2. But how would you say this bill would help change that and address these challenges?
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me. And the truth is, we are very excited that the bill has been signed, but that's just the beginning of the work. Because while we have this data, one of the major reasons is the knowledge gap about what mental health actually is. Because many people roaming around the streets do not even understand the actual concept of what mental health is. So that's why we have this data. And another thing, the data is not even, we're not saying 100% that's what we have, because we do not have such data, like we're not collecting. So these are maybe little clusters of data that have been done by a few researchers. So yeah, but with the bill, because it has different aspects to it, from service, from what the education, the awareness, the community response, the way we can reduce stigma and social seclusion. All of these the bill is going to address, is addressing rather. So yes, we're happy that the bill is here, but then we have to start the main work.
And starting the main work, one would want to look at from 1958, when you had the Lunacy Act, to today, where you now, have an act to really take care of mental issues. Is the asphyxiated economic situation in the country? How would isn't this impacting on the few psychiatric hospitals that you have, and where then is going to be the place of the traditional psychiatrist, in the mental health service delivery and the rest? Does this act really take care of all those?
Yes, so that's why I said the act has different parts. It talks about the objectives, the consolidation, and it talks about the services and the structures. So for services, we know in the past, when you hear mental health, the first thing that you think about is a psychiatric hospital. But those are tertiary hospitals. Those are extreme cases. But we do not even have it at the primary health care. So now that we have this bill, and where services is supposed to be integrated to the community, because one thing, like I said before, when we understand what mental health is, then we understand that it is not about going gaga on the street or running crazy. It's about the fact that the way I think, the way I feel, the way I act,
is part of
the way I act is being impacted by something. And another thing people need to understand, that everybody that exists has a mental health. Also, mental health is not a condition. It's a state of being. So we are all on, it's a spectrum from good to bad. The same way we have a spectrum, physical health, good to bad. So mental health is a spectrum. So we are somewhere along that spectrum. And we can move just the same way you can have malaria and you get treated and you come back to your normal self. The same way mental health is.
Or you can progress to
you can
developing
progress to
typhoid or delirious malaria.
Exactly. So it starts from somewhere is what you're saying. You keep talking about people need to understand what mental health challenges are. You are the expert. Talk to us. Especially, we need to get these things clear, because if you look at it, Nigerians are angry.
Yes.
You're on the road. Someone even made a joke on social media. Says before you get from one destination to another, you've called a couple of people names that we cannot say on TV because of how upset people really are. So, what exactly is mental health, and how do we get people less angry, despite all of the issues that we have in the country, but mentally alive? Okay,
so I'll quickly say from the beginning to the end. So, what is health? Health is our physical, mental, and social well-being. So we're very focused on the physical, we neglect the mental. So what is mental health? Mental is my ability to understand, to cope with the daily stresses of life.
Condition of the
to mind. Understand that stress will be there, but how do I know my ability? Do I know how much I can take? Do I know how to cope with those stresses and still be productive in the society? So, and there are several factors that determine where your mental health will be. One of these factors in Nigeria, people tell, when I talk to people, they tell being a Nigerian alone is a trigger for your mental health. So why people can get angry, you need to ask, why are you angry? What are the triggers? People are not living, social welfare is poor in Nigeria. So the factors that, when you say factors, determinants of health, determinants of mental health, it goes from biological, social, economic, environmental, all of these things impact on our mental. So if I'm not feeling well, if I'm not feeding properly, if I do not have a job to feed my family, I will be agitated. And this I can express maybe by crying, but he can express with anger. So those are the different concepts around mental health. So how are we dealing with daily life stresses? And what are these daily life stresses that impact on our mental health? So the truth is that is a lot. The bill is just a document. But how do we?
The implementation.
So we have beautiful policies in Nigeria. Like when I was studying, they tell you, oh, Africa, we have beautiful health policies. We have one of the amazing, but do we really implement? We have
great policies on paper, but not so great when it comes to implementation. Well, Adedotun, you know what? We still have to talk about this bill. It's a win for us, but let's not forget, as it stands right now, WHO says 1 to 1,000, one psychiatrist to 1,000 people. And looking at this report I have here, it says Nigeria only has a total of 300 psychiatrists.
We have less now.
We have less now to treat all 200 million of us. Okay, so talk to us about what the challenges are, why we have less, and how this bill will help us.
Okay, so first of all, why we have less, because many people do not understand, many people are not studying psychiatry, psychology, or other aspects of mental health. Like now we have other kind of therapists, we have counselors, we have social workers, even guardians and counseling in the schools. These things were not incorporated because the understanding wasn't there. And now the few that have studied these courses, because it is not lucrative in our system, because people, they have left. Many of them, once they study, they go abroad. So we have that shortage in human resource for health, including psychiatry and all of that. But with this bill, now if we are integrating mental health into the primary health care, we can do things called task shifting, where you can build capacity of those people that exist to provide at least first aid, which most times, if people in crisis or problem, they have a mental health breakdown, many times they will be okay if they get the first aid. So if we can build capacity for those existing, that's one. Another thing, people like us, I'm a public health person, but I am very passionate about mental health. So I decided to go take certifications in cognitive behavioral therapies. Persons like me, I can provide psychotherapy for people. So there have to be a coalition, which we already are trying to build with the Nigerian mental health. So there's a coalition of people that are passionate and they understand how to support. So all of these people need to come together. If we're waiting for the professionals alone, we cannot do it.
Okay, that is a lot of trainings, auxiliary, workers will be needed. But one great worry you've raised is the ratio, the number of psychiatrists in the country, less than 300 or about 300. Wouldn't this really impact very negatively on the child's mental health situation, particularly with those with cognitive problems, that is, those challenged?
So you see, even in the bill, there's a particular place where they have mentioned cognitive disability, intellectual disabilities. All of these is an integrated care. It's called mental health services integrated care. You cannot leave it to just the psychiatrist.
One person.
You cannot leave it to just the teacher. You cannot leave it to the parent. So it's a multi-sectorial coordination. If people can understand that, it's not just the health business, it's the school business, it's the home business, it's the work business. If I'm at work, if I know that my child is impaired and I can speak freely to my boss and he won't judge me and he will give me time to take my child to care.
Right.
Or I have insurance, health insurance that say, okay, because my child has a cognitive impairment.
All those social
all those
welfare
social
blocks,
welfare.
they are not there. I mean,
So-
in
so
Nigeria,
that's
so
why
it's
we
like
said-
you're just on your own, totally.
So that's why we said the bill is just like, yes, it's
It's a good paper, but
It's a good springboard, but there's
but
so
a
much
lot of
Well,
work.
It's not far-reaching, right?
Adedotun, we need to also look at the fact that from what you have said, and even from the data I rolled out earlier, we don't have enough psychiatrists to handle every one of us. If you say 6 out of 10 Nigerians, need to get checked out. So you as a professional now, what are the advice you would actually give to a Nigerian who's watching? Maybe because of one issue or another, mentally they know they're not okay and they don't have access to the professional. So how can we help ourselves mentally decompress?
Okay, so first of all, I always tell people, you are your own therapist. That's the first place. So if something is wrong, even if you go to therapy, the therapist or the psychologist do not have a solution for you. You are going to identify the problem and identify the solution, but based on perspective. And another thing that can help people, there's a lot of resources out there. I usually feel like we do not really search enough.
A lot of the resources where?
Online.
Okay.
Online.
And I don't have access to online. What
If you don't have access to, that's why we're saying that the gap of service is very huge.
Right.
People that are in the, personally, we can just go on Google and see.
Yeah, go ahead.
But people in the rural area, they don't have such support.
Okay.
So if they can have people that they can talk to, do you have someone that you talk to? Personally, I advocate for religious bodies. I tell people that the first point of call in our setting is religious people. Can we empower them? Give them a little bit, 2-3 days, few days training on how to actually support people psychologically, because they are the first set of calls. So those people are there. Are they using them properly? Do they have those information? So those people can also be improved. And there are a lot, we are not so many, but we are coming out there. There are many people, the people check online. There are people that are there to support even online, virtually. Gradually, we are not close, but
we'll get there.
We can get
Adedotun,
there.
before we let you go, there's this call for our political office holders to be checked mentally before they take those positions. What is your stance on that?
Personally, I would say everybody needs, before you take the place of leadership, it's a lot of responsibility. Do you have the mental or emotional capacity to do it? First of all, nobody's asking those questions. And because of the way we are wired, we're not doing that. But I would say that it's a good thing to assess yourself. Because if you have something wrong with you up there, you're not going to be optimal, because it's going to impact on even your efficiency, the way you react to people, so it's a good thing for people to check themselves. If you're going to be my leader, if you're going to be my boss, you're going to be leading people of millions of people with different personality, with different things. Do you have the emotional capacity to deal? Are you even informed enough on yourself? Can you manage yourself? So that's why even right now, I'm one of those that advocate for emotional intelligence. People should do all of this because it's important. That's why many of our leaders will go gaga, because it's difficult to handle a few people, right?
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so very much. I mean, for some of these enlightening issues, and let's just hope that government and key stakeholders like
and individuals,
individuals
speak out,
like
talk to people you can
Adedotun
trust.
Esan, who is the founder of Mental Health with DT Foundation. Thanks very much for coming on Newsnight, and we hope to be having you more often.
Absolutely.